All right, hello wine-drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And Madeira, one of my favorite things in the store this year. We sold out the Madeira tasting. Never happened before. And we drank the whole entire 8 bottles in one evening. Usually it takes us 2 evenings to sell this event. But, you know, Madeira, an island off the coast of North Africa, this is a beverage. It was very popular back in the colonial days. That's right, when Betsy Ross was knitting on her flag, she was nipping on a little Madeira. When they were toasting the Declaration of Independence, they toasted with Madeira. And, well, you know, us Americans didn't like to pay taxes. And at that time, we had to pay tax on anything that came out of continental Europe. And Madeira, being an island off the coast of North Africa, was not covered in that. So we could buy Madeira, and we didn't have to pay taxes on it. So it was very popular at that time. Of course, you know, taste changes also, and, you know, sweet wines kind of fell out of favor in the last part of the early part of the last century. And these wines are really the old ones, kind of the dinosaurs of the wine world. You do not see these wines out there. They're not being made like this anymore. The 1834, the old dog we had, was in cask for over 100 years before they put it in demijohns, and then it was bottled just 50 years ago. And the power of money is so great today. You do not see people holding on to these casks for generations anymore. What you're seeing is wines like from the 70s and 80s, 30 years in cask, now being bottled up. And once these few bottles that are left are gone of these old dogs, that is all there is. So the people that love Madeira, very passionate about it. We had several people fly in from out of the state to come to this event. And while putting the vintage port tasting afterwards was actually a smart move, because a couple people went to both events. So some very passionate port and Madeira lovers in the house last week here at the Wine Watch. We started out with the 1937 Surcial being the driest of all the Madeira grapes. And both the drier varietals, Verdelho and Surcial, grow at higher altitudes on the island. And of the two, Surcial is definitely the harder to find. It's definitely rarer. This is a small house, de Oliveira, and it's still run by the descendants of the founders of the family here today. And this wine's got incredible intensity on the nose, as all these wines do. I opened them up 2 weeks before the events. Madeiras you can keep open for months, and they just get better and better. The figs, dates, some fudge, and nutty aromas in the nose. Very complex, really bright and zesty on the palate. Madeira has got wonderful acidity. Some people feel that this is due to the soils and the fact that, well, Madeira means wooded place. And in the 15th century, one of the rulers said, you know, in order to clear some of the woods, we're going to burn them. And then 7 years later, almost the whole entire island had burned. So that ash, they feel like, adds to the acidic nature of the soil. Anyways, really bright and zesty on the tongue. Dried fruits, dates, figs, and raisins. Razor-like acidity cutting through the sweetness, leaving your mouth just screaming for food. And finishing with notes of toffee and lots of exotic spice. Most excellent. This Surcial, really big and layered. And went fabulous with the mushroom soup that Tony did. Earthy flavors in the mushroom, a little bit of cream in there, added some richness, really nice. The Verdelho from H.M. Borger. This is the most common of the noble grape varietals grown on the south side of the island in Funchal, west to Estrela de Camadologos. There's also some of this varietal found on the north side. Like I said, it's the most popular of all the varietals. This wine had a really unique lemon, rind, and cantaloupe melon-like fruit to the nose, notes of brown spice, dried tobacco. Very complex, even though it's one of the younger wines on the table, 1940. Still had those caramely notes there, and a lot of zesty spice on the tongue, that tart lemon citrus showing, and a nice hand of sweetness in the middle, but really a crescendo of savory spice and that acidity drying things out at the end. A very long, persistent finish of the two dry wines. This one was my favorite. The 1834, the big dog, the Terrantez from Barbeito, one of the rarest grape varietals, the rarest grape varietal on the island. At one time, they thought this grape varietal was extinct. And there's such a small amount of Terrantez today on the island that they say the total amount does not even fill up a 500-liter cask. Wow. Well, this varietal is usually made into a medium dry or rather sweet style. This one was kind of in between there, not really, really sweet. The nose of this wine, just exotic from the moment I opened it up. Brown spices, perfume, potpourri of like dried floral notes, cloves, figs, dates, incense. Really complex here and, really layered on the palate. This wine had laser-like acidity, but just incredible concentration and richness. Just hard to believe. This wine, the grapes for this wine were grown when Andrew Jackson was president. Got 11 votes for wine of the night. And a little bitterness on the finish, but that is textbook Terrantez. Some burnt coffee notes there as well. Most excellent juice. The 1875 Bastardo was next, and we probably should have put this wine before the Terrantez. It was not quite as sweet, a little bit drier. Bastardo, not one of the noble varietals, but it is extremely rare, and it's the only black grape of the noble grapes, and really widely... it's widely grown in the Douro Valley in Portugal, more so than on the island here. Candied orange peel, brown spices, cloves, almond, a fudge-like quality on the nose here, and really tangy, zesty wine on the tongue as, all these Madeiras showing that little sour note on the finish. This wine had some orange peel and tea-like notes as well, caramel, brown spices. This one was the second most popular wine of the evening with 5 votes for first place. Not in my book. I like the 1863 Bual better from Leacock. Bual is the English name for the Portuguese varietal Bual. Just spelled a little different, a O instead of the U here. This variety produces a medium sweet wine, and in the past you can imply that this was a whole group of grapes, but all the wines on the table here were 100% Bual. A bit of a musty note to the dates and brown spice and dark fudge here on the nose. This wine opened up the most after it was open for 2 weeks, and even the second day in the glass. I still have these wines in my glass like a week later. It's incredible, the nose on these wines. I don't want to say unchanged, but this wine definitely seemed to change the most here. Thick and rich on the tongue with lots of that sweet pancake-like syrup, a host of brown spices through the finish, fudge, cola, and more. Really good balance and depth here. This wine got 3 votes for first place. The Solera Malmsey, the only wine that was from a Solera, which they no longer make these Soleras. It's illegal to now blend wines more than 10 different vintages, so these wines have really become obsolete here. The 1863, that signifies the oldest wine in the sherry, in the blend here, in the Solera. This wine showing some Madeirization on the nose, some mushroom and dried beef-like quality, brown spices. Really sweet, though, on the tongue, and on the second day, those Madeirized notes kind of blew off a little bit, some lovely spices and figs, and really nice balance in this wine on the finish. Lovely sweetness, and this wine had the least amount of acidity of all of those. That's usually common in the Soleras. That's why they usually drink really nicely young. The 1913 Massandra, which this is a Madeira-like beverage, and it was made for the Tsars of Russia in the 18th century. This is a collection that was hidden in Crimea, in the Ukraine, hidden from the Nazis in World War II, and this is a blend of the traditional Madeira varietals, Cercial and Verdelho, and then this other grape I've never heard of, Albilo Krimsky, and this wine's a very unique bouquet, almost like iced tea on the nose, and had that honey and some brown spice and some creme caramel notes here. Not as laser-like in acidity as the other wines, but delicious on its own, and it was fantastic with the flan that Tony made at the end of the meal. Just spectacular. Did get a vote for wine of the night, though. Excellent juice. Next to all these Madeiras, maybe just a little bit out of place, though. On its own, I think it would have showed much better. And then the Moscatel, 1900, a very famous Moscatel, and this is the Moscatel of Alexandria grape, considered to be one of the lower quality varietals, but in a great vintage. They could also produce an excellent wine, a top-level Madeira with this. Lots of brown spices and nutty aromas here, walnuts, fudge. Bit of volatile acidity, but all these wines have got volatile acidity on the nose. Just this one seemed to stand out a little bit more, be a little more pronounced. Really nice sweetness on the tongue. This was the sweetest of all of them. A maple fudge note here, really rich and layered with dried fruits, dates, figs, and lovely freshness and balance on the end. This wine also got a vote for wine of the night. Another great evening here at the store with some incredibly old Madeiras. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.